All right, hello. I am gonna get this month's Freudian slip there, Cozy Craft Kit painted for y'all. So we're just gonna go ahead and get right on started. I really want to get the Cupid done first for whatever reason. I don't know why, but that's just the one that I'm really wanting to see finished. So that's what we're going to start with, and then we will go ahead and do the base and the coffee bar. So I'm going to keep my the frame base, a lot of these browns, just more natural, so that it never clashes with the inserts. And we do have more inserts that will get listed for y'all. We have an easel frame too that will be listed, but that is that will be available to everybody. The frame that you got will be exclusive for the next year. Sometimes people get a little bit worried about the burn marks on here. We do cut with lasers, so that's why there are flame marks, is because we are working with, you know, fire with very high powered lasers. So that is normal and expected. You can always take a little baby wipe to clean it up first, but honestly, I'm using an antique white, like a cream color, on the background here. And you can already see a very thin layer covers it up immediately. So even your lightest color, I am truly just lightly dabbing so that I don't get any paint into the engraving itself, because I want to keep that nice and sharp. So I'm just going super light. You can still see the wood underneath it. I can't even stress how light of a coat this is. I'm wiping most of my paint back off, and yeah, I'm just wiping it into the bottle. Probably not the most recommended thing, because if you get anything else into your paint bottle, then it's in there. Anyways, I'm going heavier over here because all of this, it doesn't matter. This is just a guide for where to glue your finished pieces on. So that I can go, my assistant in the background hasn't learned volume control yet. And she's also copying my talking right now. But she is 6 months old now. All right, so like I said, I'm going heavier in the background there. Now that that's a little dry, I'm gonna go ahead and lightly dab a little bit more paint. I'm not going any heavier though. I've learned the hard way not to do that. It really truly is just about patience there, so that you don't get too much paint in. And it really just looks really sharp. If you have any questions, just ask them in the comments and we'll get right to you. I will reply via text so that the answers will be easily there for everybody to see. Yes, I really like this cream for the background. That helps other colors really pop. I also think a soft blush color would look really good on the background. All right, there's that. I'm gonna set it aside. And I definitely want, I think I want Sweethearts to be a different color. Like I think I want it to stand out with one of the pinks. Maybe I'll do, I'll do the lighter pink for these. And then Sweethearts in that dusty rose, I think. All right. See which one and I might have to mix some of my colors here. I don't always like buy, you know, I mix to get these colors. So if you don't have these colors on hand, you can always mix them a bit. So I have this, which is closer to the soft blush. What did I just say I was gonna do that in? I was gonna do that in for the Cupid, right? All right, sorry, I think we froze there. All right, sorry, I'm trying to remember. I even just said it again, what color I was gonna do. I think I wanna do the lighter. It makes sense to do the lighter on the bigger parts, right? Guess we'll see. Trying to think too, because I really like the muted sage color in this. So I'm trying to think if I want to do. The great thing about paint is even if I paint this the wrong color or, you know, want to change it, I can. For now, we're just going to stick with this. And if I want to change it later, I will. I really like that muted green is the only thing. So I don't know how I'm gonna incorporate it. I still have Cupid, but Cupid doesn't really make all that sense being green. Maybe I'll do Cupid. Sorry, y'all, it's hard to decide. All right, we'll keep going. Maybe once I get this piece painted, I can visualize it better. All right, so if I do that, like that, honestly, okay. I'm gonna do this in the green and this top piece in the green, and then Cupid's Cafe will be the pink. All right. Also, it's not that serious, so if I want to change it later, I can. It's okay. But like I said, I just really, really, really like this muted sage color. Always make sure you're shaking your paints before using them. Okay. Wipe off excess. Let's not put too much on there. I did not wipe off enough of my excess on this one. I love this muted green. I watched Fairly Odd Parents growing up, and so now I'm starting to think of the Cosmo and Wanda colors where they're pink and green. Also Wicked. Wicked is a good pink and green contrast. All right, so I'm gonna have to do a couple coats of that. But we will set that aside to dry. I'm still contemplating what to do for the Sweethearts. So while I continue to have an existential crisis on that, I should have grabbed more sometimes I just get so excited to paint that I forget to grab like table protection. So we use this. There we go. All right, like I said, I'm gonna do a more natural color in here. And I'm gonna do it in a stain. So I don't have a charcoal brown. Sorry, I don't have a charcoal brown, but that's okay. I'm gonna do this one, and I'm gonna add a little bit of black here in a moment. So I watered it down to get more of a stain effect. Or I put water in my sponge, I should say, to get more of a stain effect. And I'm just rubbing it in. You can also do this with baby wipes, is what we usually do. Or a damp paper towel. And a little bit of black. And I start over here because this part's the part that's going to be covered up the most. And that way I can rub it in. And I'm just doing enough to give it an antiqued look. And I know it looks really heavy in the center there. Again, that part's always covered up, but I'm also going to rub it off here. So I'm going to take the clean part of my sponge. And actually, I'm going to take a baby wipe, except it's a little dry, so I'm going to dampen my baby wipe and do it like this, because this is just easier, it's quicker. And see how all those different, like the blacks and the browns, are going to show up. Just give a nice antiqued look without being heavy. And then I can even take a little bit of a lighter color over top and do the same thing, and it will give it just a really neat effect. So we'll do that here in a moment. I'm going to take the same antique cream white that I used earlier, put it on my sponge, and add just a little bit of water. I know it looks messy right now. Just trust the process. That's what I have to tell myself too. Alright, there's that. That's going to be our base. And now I'm going to take this part and do a very similar process. Just going to take the sponge that I already had and I'll wipe it all over. Same with our frame while we're at it. Actually, I could do this. I'm going to go back and put more white on the frame part. Sorry, that's out of your vision. I'm going to add my whitewash and just kind of rub it all in, wipe it up a bit, and just make sure that it's matching up to this in a way that I like. I'm gonna add more brown wherever I put my brown. The baby is slowly making her way towards me on the floor. I'm gonna let that sit in for a moment while I then, like I said, I wanted to do this more of a white frame to do a contrast. going to match it up a bit. I'm just warming it up a bit with the brown again. All right, I think that's good. I'm gonna take some white to it as well and just kind of intentionally do some of the edges. There we go. All right, I'm liking that a lot more. All right, sorry about that, guys. My phone keeps acting up. All right. So then I'm gonna just glue this all down, and the base itself, sorry this is getting a little rushed, I just don't know how long my phone's gonna hold up. The base itself will also be glued. The top piece is slightly smaller than the bottom. And so you'll glue that together, and once this is all glued, it just inserts right there. So as always, you wanna make sure before you glue down, or before you let the glue dry, make sure that this is the proper height off the base. And we even have a little score line. So don't glue past that if you want your base to stand up correctly, okay? Which of course you do. Oh, I'm sorry, I had some. Okay. Next, I'm going to do, I know I had a black paint, but I lost my black paint. Here's my black paint. Gonna do my coffee bar. Now, this, I want to do kind of like a chalkboard style. I have a big clump of paint here. Gonna deal with that later. Now, like I said, this is going to be a chalkboard style, so I want to let the base dry, and then I'm going to do a very vague white kind of shadow on top to make it look like chalk's been erased from it. I'm done with that guy. And then the rest of these little details are going to be white. That's okay. If that comes apart, just go ahead and when you glue it down, when you glue it down, you won't be able to notice. Sometimes, depending on the cut of the wood, the grain of the wood, it kind of gets a little bit like that. Where? All right. And then I'm going to do a little bit of a Dusty Rose for the heart. I'm losing my pink. There it is. Hey, baby girl. Alright, and then the frame. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with that frame yet. So stay tuned. But while I decide what to do with that frame, I'm going to come back to my Cupid stuff and add more green now that this is dried, just to cover up that pink after I changed my mind. And then give this a thicker coat as well. Do love how quickly these pieces are to paint. All right, and then we're gonna go ahead and add more white just to make this. And the thing with the sponges that I love is whenever I do a chalkboard style painting, the dabbing from the sponge gives it just a slight texture that gives it kind of that automatic chalkboard effect. No, I painted on my I need to get better with videos because I feel like I get so cramped here that I can't spread out and then I make silly little mistakes like that. But again, paint is very forgiving, surprisingly, at least in this sense. I don't know about all cases, but for us, it's very forgiving. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and take my glue. Now in your kits, you always get a little bit of glue, usually a super glue, but sometimes we switch that out if it's more appropriate. Sorry, again, my phone is not doing so well today. So I'm gonna go ahead and start gluing on this, and then also I'll put the finished photos in our group, of course. But I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to keep going here with my phone. I'm so sorry. But I really like that contrast. I have decided I'm gonna do that darker rose for the sweethearts. I think that'll look really nice, and then the green just frames it well. And then for Cupid, I don't know. We might go like a chocolate brown for Cupid, because chocolate and Valentine's go quite nicely. Alright, sorry, I have no clue where that one froze either. Alright, so I did a darker color underneath and the lighter color on top so far. I think I'm going to keep going with a lighter color. And it actually gives just enough contrast between that and the true antique cream. They're kind of just, the background here ended up being more warm linen and Cupid more antique cream, so I think that's the perfect contrast. And then while I have that on here, I'm gonna wipe off as much of it as I can, and I'm gonna go very lightly. Again, it's just supposed to give kind of a chalkboard-like effect. Going a little heavier on the edges just because I really like how that looks. All right, there's our chalkboard. All right, and then I'm gonna start, I'm gonna do this part first so that I don't lose, or so I can space things well. So I'm gonna do a brown frame for my coffee bar. I just feel like that's how my chalkboard stand looks, and so I think I don't know, there's a lot of chalkboard stands at coffee bars. It's kind of the style, I guess. It's also just what I thought of when I saw this piece. So that will be our frame. And I'm gonna go ahead and start gluing this all down for you. Okay, again, I'm using my Barely Art. Now this sits just slightly centered. So you'll wanna make sure you move that around until you find your placing. Doesn't that look so cute? Oh, I'm loving this. I love this piece so much. Okay. And then my cups are gonna go down there. And I have to be careful because I do have wet paint on the back of this. So once I place it, I don't want to slide this one around. I just want to be conscientious of what's going on now. If I were you, I would let it dry a little bit more before I was putting it on. But because I'm trying to get this done quickly for you guys, we're gonna go ahead and hope for the best. And I put too much glue on, so it is slipping through. The nice thing about Barely Art is that it really does dry pretty nicely and nice and clear. I had a little green on my fingers still, apparently. Yeah. It'll just look like a true chalkboard with little bits of white here and there, like the unerased parts of it all. Okay. And Barely Art glue, I'm gonna reference them again in our Facebook groups, but they like, it's strong glue. It really is. So that's why I really like it. But look how cute that is. Okay. For my bar, I'm just gonna do a streak of glue here because I'm gonna do better at getting that on, I think, and centered. There we go. Stuck to my finger. Oh, okay. Hold on, honey. Be right back, folks. All right. She got stuck under the coffee table there. Funny timing with doing a coffee sign, of course. Oh, I dropped my glue. Okay. I will put my hearts on now. And these can go either, they're the same size, they mirror each other. So you can do them whichever way. And they can go a little sideways, a little straight, however you like. But there is our finished coffee bar sign. And I love it. All right, back to Cupid. Figure out what to do with Cupid's sign. I think that's paint's dry enough, so I'm gonna go ahead and put, even though I still don't have the sweethearts painted, I'm gonna just add these elements because then it gives me a really just better idea as to what I want to do. And I'm just going to make sure that that's lined up. Do apologize, I'm holding a baby now, so that is why we are one-handed and maybe a little clunky. All right. Just making sure my phone keeps working. We're doing great so far. Now, if I can do this while holding a baby, tell your friends who don't think they're crafty that they can definitely do these kits and join you in the fun, right? Like, if I can do this while holding a baby, 6-month-old, so she's very getting into that grabby stage, if you know what I mean. Makes it a little more difficult to do stuff, or like to have her on my lap while doing stuff, but nonetheless. All right, we're back. Great. All right, again, I'm just gonna do the darker rose color, which Oh, my paint needs to be mixed. Again, always mix your paint. Makes it a lot easier to use. All right, now this one's not terribly darker than what I already had going on for me, so I'm gonna take some brown and mix it in to just make it a smidge darker. Which kind of makes it look like a chocolate strawberry. I'm also going to take, I don't know, I think I might just trust that this is gonna be the right color. It's not the most dusty rose. If I had red on me, I would actually mix a little bit of red in there. So that is what I'm going to do. See if my husband might bring me some red in a moment. Oh, all right, he did. I do have red. Look at that. Yeah, mixing brown with that rose was just the wrong combination. So we're gonna mix some red. And that looks a lot better, and I can't see quite. It's getting a lot closer to that dusty rose, actually. I probably just put too much red in there, but that's okay. Actually, no. Oh, happy accidents. Oh, this is such a pretty color. Look how pretty that is. It really is pretty close to that dusty rose. And just the right contrast, I think. So I'm going to put that on and let that dry. Now, because this is cursive, we do know that they are kind of breaking because there are some very thin parts. Again, though, when you glue it on there, you'll glue it in a way that it just is invisible. No one would ever know. All right, there you go, sorry. Sorry, again. All right, so we're just gonna, next time we will make sure that the phone is properly working. Oh, honey. All right, and then while I'm here, because clearly we are coming to an end. Honey, it's okay. I am holding her, by the way, and bouncing her. Oh, why did I put that right in the middle? It's like the one spot where the wood doesn't touch is where I put the glue. That's funny. Anyways, it is clearly there. I am not going to put my base in here at all until, oh, there we go, until that glue dries. Because apparently I put the glue right down the center, and I do not want to glue. You could glue your sign in for like extra security, but I want to be able to lay things flat when I'm not decorating with that specific piece. Just to give me easier storage options. Okay, so like I said, because this is cursive, you do just kind of have to piece it together like a little puzzle. But the beautiful thing is that it seamlessly blends together once it's down. And if you ever have any issues with that, you just let us know. We will walk you through it and help, or figure out a solution if need be. All right, there we go. I like that contrast. I like that it's not super dramatic, but just dramatic enough. All right, so that's it with that. I'm gonna move my paints out of the way, put my caps on, and then back to my base over here. And I already walked you through this, but we are here, so let's go. All the notifications on my phone today. The low battery just popped up, but that is great timing because, like I said, we're wrapping up. So there we go. That, and I'm just gonna make sure that it's perfectly centered. Last one, guys, I promise. Last interruption, because we are done. So that is your sign. I'm gonna just put a paint bottle on here to hold this down while it dries and scooch this back down to that line. And then my Cupid and my coffee bar are done. Aren't those cute? All right, let me know if you have any questions and we'll continue to answer those as we see them pop up. Thank you guys.